I get a lot of questions about clearing land. If you have wooded land, should you clear it to build a house, to create pasture, or to do other things related to agriculture? Will that improve the utility and value of the land? Hi, I'm Justin Hitt with Prosperity Homestead. If you've got acreage, let's say you just bought a piece of timbered land, a lot of folks have that desire to clear the land off, sell the timber perhaps, and then suddenly have a pasture or suddenly have a home site. Now, I don't recommend doing this. In fact, when you acquire a piece of land, I want you to spend time on it camping, hiking, observing the land, even drawing out a variety of design plans before you cut down your single tree. Let me share why. First off, just because you've got trees on the land doesn't mean it has timber value. You want to have a forester look at your land and assess whether there's value in the land. It is possible that if you cut it down today because you have a forester who's eager to cut down trees, you could be losing a significant amount of money where 3 to 5 years down the line, you might be able to get additional funds. The trees don't really grow that much in that many years, but you may find that when they take down the trees in one area, you gain accessibility, and then you could have a select cut rather than a clear cut. There's just a lot of factors. Now, that forester is not going to be somebody who's in the business of cutting down trees. You want to go to a university. You want to work with students. You want to have an ecological study on that land and an opinion of someone who's not in the business of cutting down trees. See, there's a big thing going on in my region is someone, before they sell a piece of land, they'll just cut all the trees off it. They'll take pulpwood off of it. They'll take the hardwoods off of it, and they will strip that ground naked. Now, you're going to buy that piece of land and feel like you got a good price. Most of the time, you don't get a good price because you don't understand, in order to get that land erosion free and usable for your next project, you're going to have to add a lot of seed. You're going to have to add a lot of work. You're going to have to add some excavation work. So getting that forested land, observing that land, maybe only clearing out paths. We just did a property where we used a forest mulcher and cleared out all the historic roads. So we looked at satellite images. We saw that there were trees cut down in about 1997. And most of the property is covered with scrub brush. You'll see the videos in the description. We basically found the historic roads and access points and simply had a forest mulcher, which is a machine with a giant tumbling blade on the front that's essentially just cleared out these roads. Now I can drive a truck over most of the property. I can hike the property. I can get a better idea of the terrain. I can do more towards maximum productivity. Now, the land right next door, the owner decided to go ahead and just strip everything off of it, and they have basically clear cut it, and it looks horrible. I've been monitoring a couple clear cut sites that just look horrible because there wasn't a plan for what to do after the trees were removed. So there are some options, by the way. If you're buying timberland for investment, very often when the trees are removed, they're not stripped off the land. They are often cut in sequence. They're often cut according to the types of trees that have good market price. And then they're going to need access roads to do that. So there'll be logging trails and roads. That opens up the opportunity for hunting. So if there's trails and logging roads, you can hunt on the land, camp on the land, hike on the land, get familiar with the land. But a good piece of property that is going to be timber managed, when they take off the trees, they're going to put on new plants. So they're going to go through and they're going to reinforce the land where there's erosion challenges. So they might, what it's called grub, they're going to take the stumps out and they might bury some of those stumps. They may create swales. They may create roadways for access. They may section off the land by soil type to put in new trees. Based on the soil types, if you get a real professional. But unfortunately, a lot of folks just want to strip the trees off, take it to the mill, get paid, and they're going to know that you're not very sophisticated, and you're going to get maybe $1,000 an acre. Maybe you're going to get $500 an acre when you could get significantly more if you had a plan for laying out the property, for how you're going to remove the trees. Now, if you are going to go through the trouble of writing up a plan and the trees, this forester has come in and told you the trees are worth cutting down, by having a plan in place, you can actually get tax credits or offset your income from the timber activity because you've gone through a plan. There's a lot to consider. So if you're going to be clearing a wooded lot, cutting down the trees, burning all the brush is the worst possible thing that you can do. Working with a number of foresters, you'll find that there are foresters that are no burn site foresters. There are foresters that while they're out there doing a timber activity can do land improvement. So they're already got equipment out there. They can cut roads. They can scale out a pond. So perhaps you got a low-lying area on the property. Once the trees are cut down, they can stabilize the soil around that low-lying area. But while stabilizing the soil around the area, they're actually excavating from an area where you might have a pond in the future. And there's a variety of ways of doing that. So again, we want to get maximum utility value out of the land. In order to do that, you must observe the land. You must think about the plans for the land. You might want to look out for several home sites. Rather than clearing off the land and getting pasture on it, you could actually run animals under the trees that are there. So you may look at the property and they say, yeah, you could timber this, but if you wait 10 years, you could get a better yield. Well, if you've got 10 years of running goats under these trees, running hogs under these trees, even running cattle in a silver pasture model, then you can get cash flow from the land immediately. So usually when I'm working with a client, what we talk about is what are their hobbies? What are their interests? What do they plan to do with the land? Because very often in a week, we can make that land usable for hunting, for ecology, for conservation. Actually, one of the biggest scams there is today is locking up land under these conservation trusts, because very often you can conserve the land and have the economic value of the land come to you. Now, again, it's about having a plan. Once we discuss all the details of what you want to do with the land, we start laying out the options, start laying out the plan. Where are the historic roads? If there's timber, where are the timber locations that are mature? Which are the timber locations that are going to need a little bit more time? Now, if you've got 500 or 600 acres, you could have a property profile that has multiple sets of plans. If you have 4 to 5 acres, perhaps you have the need to clear the land off, but you want to clear it off and end up with a certain home site or certain types of accessibility. And many times you can actually clear just the home site, get your septic in, get your well in, get that kind of thing in without disturbing the rest of the property, and then later remove the rest of the property. It just really depends on what your needs are. Again, somebody who cuts down trees and sells them at market is always going to want to cut down trees. That's their habit. That's what they want to do. You want to get a university. You want to get students. You want to get somebody who has no interest in the cutting down of trees to actually go through your property. You want to hunt or hike or spend some time on the property to get to know it. There are, here's something I don't understand a lot of times. A good natural forest is going to have the different layers of the forest. And if you go in there and let somebody just cut it all down without taking a look at it, you could have had ginseng growing back there. You could have had a good habitat for hunting back there. You could have had unusual mushrooms or habitat that is unique to your area, and it would just simply be destroyed. But again, I'm about you getting maximum value from that land, about a purchase of land that pays for itself, land that cash flows. In paying for itself could be that weekend camping space, that place that you go with your friends and family, that cabin for the winter or the summer. But it also could be running animals on the property. It could be, having a smaller home than you may have thought about in the first place in order to kind of grow into the property. because we want to measure out cash flow. And it does seem like a lot of work because, it seems so easy just to get started. It feels like you've done something, clearing the land out, cutting down the trees. But again, if you don't have a plan, then you will be subject to the plans of others. Hey, when are you going to get that house site put up there? Well, as soon as you cut out the house site, you're going to be frustrated because you don't have a house. And maybe it's not the right time financially for you to have the house. Maybe it's not the right opportunity for a house there. You may not know there's another home site that's even better. I'll leave you with one last thing. One thing that's fun, if you like the outdoors and you want to really experience the land, every place you think there's a home site, you clear out a little camping area. Okay, you're not cutting down any big trees. You're just clearing some brush, and you're camping on the site that you believe you might have a home there in the future. Think about this. You're going to get an understanding of what direction the wind comes from. You're going to get a kind of what are the views like. You're going to get a lot more information about the property, and that costs you nothing. You purchase the property, you drive out on the property, and you hike in and camp. It costs you nothing to start getting familiar with the land, and then start developing plans, start putting it down in writing, start looking at cash flow, start looking at what opportunities the land might have now, what they might have in the future. I've worked with some agricultural folks that they started putting mushroom logs out on their land. So they took down a few trees here and there as part of gaining access to the property, but immediately turned them to mushroom logs. And then they got a mushroom log harvest out of it. You could actually rent. So let's say you need pasture. Let's say you need garden area. You could actually rent those near your property and get your house up first. While you're getting familiar with the community, you're networking, you're getting some of that yield out of the property or out of a property while you're getting your property ready. Just simply don't rush into it. I'm Justin Hitt with Prosperity Homestead, and we've been talking about clearing wooded land, some of the drawbacks, some of the things you need to do in advance. And if you want to go into more details about perhaps the soil building, the ecology of that land, how to increase the hunting value of that land or the recreational value of that land, then visit www.prosperityhomestead.org. That's all one word, prosperityhomestead.org, where we're going to help you transform your land to maximum value, both financially, enjoyment-wise, and ultimately have that land have the best possible ecological value. I want to thank you for listening. We cover a lot of these topics. Please like and subscribe and write in with your questions. I'd love to hear from you. I'm Justin Hitt with Prosperity Homestead.